G'day. It's time to down your unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
G'day everybody and welcome to this spicy episode into the world of the realm of the sorcerers of the things and the stuff in the warp. We're going to be reviewing the Thousand Sons of Codex. I'm joined by the wonderful Brian Seipp, who I don't have a nickname for yet. I'm trying to think one up, mate. Do you go by any names?
Just the great and powerful.
Oh, I go by the King of the Universe. Thank you very much. Great and powerful.
Yeah. Or just call me Oz, because much like him, I wizard and I have no actual power. So
I would make a reference to the Thousand Sons Codex there, but it'll get people too unhappy. But we are here to review this book. Naturally, there's going to be two parts. This will be coming out for you guys, especially for the patrons. The patrons will be getting this early. This will be coming out alongside the NDA being up and things and stuff on the Saturday and the stuff. And yeah, you get the idea. You're going to be hearing this at ground zero, day one of the new Codex when we can talk about it. And then, of course, it's going to be part two, where Brian and I answer a bunch of patron questions and talk about list design and conceptual matchups. We're also going to be evaluating how all the cult codexes line up against each other, because this is the last one to come out, because naturally we have World Eaters, Death Guard, Emperor's Children, and now Thousand Sons for the first time ever, all four in the game. But Brian, jumping straight into this good stuff. Hot takes, mate. What do you think of this book?
this army is incredibly powerful. I think it is stronger than current Tsons, and I think its power level is akin to not Tsons at the highest level, because that was rather silly.
Yeah, it was.
But certainly maybe in their prime, I would say.
Yeah, I'm generally high on this codex. It's gonna much akin to the World Eaters Codex. On first glance, I think it's gonna rub people the wrong way, but I think once you sit down and delve into it, you will find that there is plenty to do in this book. It is very powerful. It keeps all the jank and multimodality that you could kind of just make a unit of 5 rubrics with a character, do whatever you kind of need it to do, which I think has always been one of the super powerful things about Thousand Sons. They take a battle line unit and a joined character, and it can just go to the moon, or it can just be like a utility piece. And that I really like that. I wish they could do that with more battle line units in the game. But suffice to say, I think this is a relatively good codex. I'm a little bit less crazy on it than Brian, but I still think it's quite strong, and it's got a lot of good stuff going for it. And I also was really, really interested in this book for many reasons, because the design structure, I feel like G-Dub wrote one of the best army rules we've ever had with the Cabal sorcerers previously and all the Cabal points and stuff like that. But they also wrote themselves into a corner balance-wise, because there's only so much you can do with that book, and they tried so hard over so many iterations to tone it down without actually making any meaningful changes, until they just had to nuke them with points until they didn't really have an army in their army. That's safe to say, yeah?
Yeah, the Thousand Sons rules are, army rules, 5 army rules in a trench coat, right? It's incredible.
It is.
It's very powerful.
So jumping into this one, we still have the Cabal Sorcerers. For those following us along in post, this is on page 67 as we're going to be starting our review. So if your army faction is Thousand Sons, at the start of your shooting phase, 1 or more models from your army with this ability can attempt rituals from those listed to the right. To do so, select 1 model from your army with this ability that has not yet attempted a ritual this turn, and select 1 ritual no model from your army has manifested this turn. Then take a psychic test. Psychic test's back for this model by following the sequence below. So you roll 2 dice, and then you consult the ritual number, the power number of the said ritual. And if you've rolled equal to or more, you manifest the power. You can also choose to channel the warp by rolling in additional dice. But if you do, anytime you roll any doubles on those 3 dice, you will take D3 mortal wounds. And if that model is not destroyed, the combined total of the dice rolled during this test is the psychic test result. If that equals or exceeds the warp charge value, not ritual number, then resolve its effects. How do you feel about this being the new take on instead of having all the Cabal points and all the bits and pieces and the point?
It is.
Bean counting.
It is so much better. So I actually think it's borderline in many ways more powerful, but more importantly, the gameplay experience for both you as Thousand Suns player and your opponent is significantly easier, less of a mental load having to kind of keep track of all that.
100%. And also, it liberates the army. It liberates the list design of the army, because it was all about just hero hammer min-maxing how many Cabal points you had. I've got to have 21 when I start the game so I can take some attrition to still do a double Doom Bolt, double move, yada, yada, yada. And now it's literally just pick a sorcerer. And I got to tell you, like, all the sergeants in all your aspiring sorcerers, all your Terminator sorcerers, all that stuff, they will get to manifest these powers as well, which I think is a great shot.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, dive us through. Give us all 4 of the psychic powers here, the rituals, and we'll evaluate the pack.
Yeah. So, those of you who have played against Space Marines might have heard of this first one. For the measly cost of Warp Charge 5 on 2d6, you can give a unit within picking an enemy within 24 inches, and every Thousand Suns model in your army, not just wizards, every Thousand Suns model in your army rerolls hit rolls of 1. And if you get a 10 or higher, they get full rerolls to hit. Which means you get a cast Oath a moment, which is pretty good.
You just point Oath a moment. I should also let everybody know all of these trigger at the start of the shooting phase. That's correct, yeah?
Yes.
So every single one of these, the follows will be, you will try to manifest all your rituals at the start of your shooting phase. And you can do all 4 of these in the same turn, which is why it's very powerful.
There are two other, I guess, points which are really important, I think. First off, you roll 2d6 and then you channel, and combine that with the fact that you can only successfully cast a spell once, right? So what that means is you could fail to cast with 2d6. Let's say you roll like you're trying to get this 5, you really want to get the full value of a 10 to get the full rolls to hit. You roll dice and you get 2 2s, and that's a 4, right? You know, if you channel, you need a 6. You can say, I guess I failed it. I'll move on to the next wizard and try it again.
You're exactly right. So you can't manifest them more than once, but if you fail it, you can double down and have some redundancy, and do good generalship will mean you can have another crack. And I think that's very, very important for Tsons players.
And you combine that with the channeling happening after you roll the 2 dice, and those situations come up far more often than you would think they would.
Yeah, 100%. All right, what's the next one?
The second one is one that we all know and love, Temporal Surge. So you pick a friendly Thousand Suns unit within 24 inches and visible. That's an important, I think, change. I think it required visibility before. And on a 6 or higher on your psychic test, you get to make a normal move of d6 inches. However, if you get a 10 or higher, you can do a flat move of 6. In both cases, you can charge afterwards.
Yeah, very important here to know it's not you just move again like it was previously. So this is a little toned down, but the fact is that you just get this in your pack. You just have a double move in your packet, like a package of army rule for every army all the time. It's still extremely powerful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're moving out of sequence, right? So you may not be able to get the Magnus swings across the entire board in one turn, which was rather silly, let's be honest.
It was.
But you do still get the, somebody rapid ingress, I'm going to jump on this side of the wall to shoot you, or you have a really powerful Overwatch, I'm going to go behind the wall and then move out in my shooting phase when you can't do anything. Right. All of those plays are still very much live, so it's still extremely powerful. The next one we have is Doom Bolt, another classic. This one casts on a 7 or an 11 if you want to go for the big one. You pick a unit within 24 inches, which is further than it was before. And on the low cast of 7, you do D3 mortal wounds. And on the tie cast of 11, you do D3 plus 3. So it's a lower than before, but still very good.
Yeah, and we're all happy to hear it got toned down. It's a lot easier to do. I mean, just a 7 on essentially a 3d6, or there's a couple of different of your special characters that will have pluses to cast, or some other ways to give yourself pluses to cast, of course. So the 7 isn't too bad, and the 11 is very doable for some units. Magnus is very good at getting that D3 plus 3.
And I would say the real change I would say here is this is now an extremely good and useful tool, rather than a game plan, right? I mean, previous Thousand Suns, I know some of our teammates on Team USA would literally look at it as a burn down chart of wounds in the opponent's army. If you were just trying to burn down their wounds by casting Doom Bolt as many times as you possibly can, right? And that's not what this is going to be used as. It's still going to be really powerful, obviously. D3 plus 3 mortal wounds is incredible. And even D3 mortal wounds out of phase and 24 inches away, chucking a bolt like that is really powerful as well. So still really good.
Great.
The last one is Twist of Fate. This casts on a 9, or you can go for the super hard mode of 12 plus. You pick a enemy unit within 24 inches invisible to your unit. Every time a Thousand Suns model in your army makes an attack that targets them, all your attacks get extra AP. If you get the big cast, everything gets 2 extra AP.
So good. So
This is
very
incredible.
good.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is very, very good. And really importantly, because before we had access to effects like this, right? And a lot of times it'd be like better to just cast Doombolt rather than
Correct.
cast this Twist of Fate. You're casting every one of these spells every single turn. As long as you have 4 wizards, you are casting 4 spells.
Yep.
That is massive, right? It doesn't that is a huge change from the tempo and how the Thousand Suns play. Where before you were this house of cards, which would eventually get like knocked down, and your army rule became less effective as you got smaller. You're just as effective through the entire game now.
Yep, 100%. I'd also like to point out what happens if you die when you. So let's say you try and channel the warp. You've already taken D3 mortal wounds. We know most of their characters have, 4. So let's say you're on 1 and you go for you go for a big, you go for a channel the warp and you die. Do you still get the spell off, or does it dissipate?
It should dissipate. I think it's if the model's not destroyed, then the combined total of all the values for the psychic test as a result.
Yeah.
So you do have to survive. You have to not get sent into the warp and become a spawn.
Exactly right. But this is an incredible 4-pack. Like I would happily hold this up against, say, the Eldari agile maneuvers and stuff like that. As like you have 4 instead of their 7 or 8 or whatever they've got. And yeah, cool. They've got no Overwatch and move further and stuff like that. You have move further. You have just do damage with Doombolt. You have just hit them harder with Twist of Fate, and you have Oath of Freaking Moment on a 10 plus on 3d6 and sometimes 3d6 plus. And so
Yeah.
I'm really high on this 4-pack of special abilities, and I think it's extremely, extremely good.
I'm gonna hot take. I think this is the most powerful army roll in the game, replacing the previously most powerful army roll in the game. So, I think we're still in that space.
But some glad things, like you said, I'm really happy Doombolt got toned down. It was like essentially it was the non-interactive thing. Like, why should I try and do damage with my flamers, which are better to Overwatch with as a deterrent and just keep safe? And I can just shoot out Doombolt, come back every turn, and just play for a small win against any opponent in the world. And Doombolt pissed me off because of that. It was so good, it made you not want to do anything else but Doombolt. But now it's kind of in line with a lot of the rest of the abilities. And I just can't overstate how just having Oath of Moment on demand is baller. It's really good.
I can't tell you how mad some of my teammates have gotten when I've said I'm going to cast Oath of Moments, especially players, so.
And you at home should say that too, just to mess with your opponent.
Yeah.
Twist of Fate is how good is Twist of Fate? Because just at the low number, just getting AP 1, that's a 1 to sometimes 2 CP strat. Like in Combined Arms Astra Miller Time, that's a 2 CP strat to just get +1 AP against a target. Then you just get it on a 9, on 3d6 on a 9, relatively doable. Even if you don't have any pluses to cast, which, like I said, you can get in other ways. Is that just bonkers?
I think it's really powerful, especially when you put in the context of some of the datasheet changes. The most important one being for Rubric Marines, the Icon of Flame no longer requires you roll 6s to get extra AP. It just flat ignores cover for non-characters.
Correct.
So combine that with this, and this is a true +1 AP. This is not like I cast it and then I ignore your cover. You're already doing that, which means that you are getting an actual extra AP. So that is incredibly powerful.
I'd also like to point out that every Infernal Bolt Gun variant got an extra AP to try and make it actually worth considering over the Flamer. So you could potentially have AP for Bolt Guns, ignore cover. You've got Melter Bolters, which I think is really kind of something. Whether it's better than the Flamer, we'll probably talk about that in part 2. All right. Into the first of the detachment. This is the Grand Coven. This is the kind of reskinned index detachment. So I'm going to hand pass it to you, mate. Tell us the TLDR of this. What has actually changed, and is it any good?
So this is another one which kind of feels a little similar in terms of templating, right? So this takes the original index detachment where you got to choose 3 different abilities, but you would only ever take dev wounds. And instead what it does is it gives you 3 stronger abilities. Dev wounds is still the same, and allows you to only pick them once per battle in a similar kind of way to Gladius. So very strong abilities, but only once per battle round, and only can pick them once. So those are an extra 6-inch range to all of your psychic weapons, for Thousand Suns models, or +1 to wound with all your Thousand Suns psychic weapons, and then of course the classic devastating wounds. That's awesome. I mean,
it is so good.
Also, you pick it in your command phase, which is an important thing that they sometimes get wrong, but they didn't here. So that gives you agency to choose it when you need it.
I'll quickly run us down the enhancements. So Lord of Forbidden Law is still here. Each time the bearer manifests a ritual, you get plus 6-inch range. Incandandum, Exalted Sorcerer only. Once per battle, when selecting a ritual for the bearer to attempt, you can select Doombolt even if you've already manifested. So here's a way to get a single once per game double Doombolt. Don't rate it that highly, especially on an Exalted Sorcerer who's not going to be getting to the D3 plus 3 as consistency as you'd like. Malefic Crystal's here and is unchanged. And Eldritch Vortex.
It has changed. You can no longer do it while you're engaged.
Good. That is good.
Yeah.
Eldritch Vortex is here as well. 1,000 Suns model only. Add 1 to the strength and damage characteristics psychic weapons equipped by the bearer. Still very good. How do you evaluate that 4-pack of enhancements, mate? Where's the good stuff?
I mean, the fact that Vortex is still there is bananas. I don't understand
amazing.
how that's. I don't know how that name's
Amazing.
Yeah, that is the most absurd enhancement. One of the most absurd enhancements in the game. That's really good. Crystal is still incredible. A little less like you can't be as aggressive with it, and use cases like Terminators are a little worse with it, but still very good. And it's still an incredible. Like, anytime you can pull something up in your command phase, so you have all the information you could possibly want, and then drop it in the same turn. That's super powerful. Lord of Forbidden Lore. It's fine. Yeah, it takes your range. I don't think it's bad. You have to have a pretty good reason to take it. And Candium, I actually think is and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, I think is actually pretty useful. I think the second Doombolt is Doombolt is an incredible ability. Previous Thousands armies were built around the idea of second Doombolt. Having it in your pocket is still useful, and I actually rate the Exalted Sorcerer as a one of
Me too.
a little bit. So I think he's actually kind of cool. So
in fact, a bit of foreshadowing. I actually don't mind all their characters. There's a little internal moving around there, but yeah, the fact that the Vortex is still here, and I still think the Infernal Master is very good. And now in this detachment, sure, he won't have Dev Wounds all game, but the turn that he doesn't have Dev Wounds, he has plus 6-inch range on that Flamer or plus 1 to wound. Still very, very good.
Very powerful.
All right, into the strats. Psychic Dominion for 1 CP. Any phase just after M unit selected as targets. 1 Tsons unit from your army that was selected as its attacks. You have, so their models have Hazardous. Then you have a 4+ Feel No Pain against psychic attacks. So still the bane of the Grey Knights matchup. Absolutely cooks the Grey Knights matchup. But apart from that, a pretty niche strat. What's the next one?
Destined by Fate. This is another one from the previous index. Any phase after you fail saving throw for a wizard in your army, you can change the damage characteristic to 0, which is pretty cool. And they just specify you can do that while fast rolling now as well, which is nice.
Yeah, really good. And I'm a big fan of them still having that strat. Next one is Egotistical Power for 1 CP. It's in your command phase, 1 psychic unit from your army. Select the imbued manifestation, maelstrom, whatever. So your plus 6-inch range, plus 1 to wound, and your dev wounds till start in this command phase. That one applies to your unit instead of. And you can do it even if you've already used that ability. So you have 1 CP dev wounds on demand, 1 CP plus 1 to wound on demand. I am hugely high on this stratagem. I think it's the best one possibly in this detachment.
I think it's a very good stratagem. The next one we got is Desecration of Worlds, which is a great name. This happens in your command phase. You pick a wizard unit from your army that's in range of objective you control. You just get a stick it. This is pretty great, I actually think, because Thousand Suns have always kind of been wishing they had a sticky objective ability. They get it. One of the use cases I found that I've seen it used for is when you have a crystal squad, which is oftentimes in the backfield, maybe holding your home field, and you go, oh, this is game time. I'm going to use my crystal squad. You can spend a CP, stick your home field, zip up into space, come back down somewhere else, and still score all your primary.
Yeah, big deal. Also, you 100% pointed out, people were taking, Predators, Rhinos, multiple Mutolith Beasts to try and have a strong primary game as Tsons, because primary game is kind of their weakest point. They'd find it, usually they were just playing for the 10-10s or the 8-8s on primary so much of the time, because they found it very hard to hold the third objective. And I think Sticky just really unlimbers a lot of that, so I'm a big fan.
That's great.
Arcane Focus is one of the best stratagems in here. Also, it's 1 CP. After in your shooting phase, after you've taken a psychic test for models in your army that channel the warp. So channel the warp means you rolled the 3rd dice, right?
Yes.
And you can re-roll. So you roll, you need to get your extra AP or your big Doombolt or your whatever, and you roll your 3 dice. You didn't reach to the higher tier, 1 CP, you have another crack. So re-roll all the D6. I think this is very, very good. And it's also going to be big for, not dying with your 4 wound guys if they've already channeled and taken D3 Immortals. So I'm a huge fan of this one, just for a bit of redundancy.
Yeah, so a couple things that are important here. First off, it's the only way to reroll a test
Correct.
in the entire codex, so that's huge. And second, if you cast into a small version of the spell and you wanted the big version, you are just stuck with the small version, right? Unless you use this stratagem, you don't have the option to not have. Not going for the large version. You just are casting the spell, and then you fall in a bracket of where it went off. So
Correct.
that's important.
All right, the last one is freaking banger. Go for it.
Devastating Sorcery. This is 2 CP because they took 2 stratagems from the previous index and just glued them together. So in your shooting phase, a Thousand Suns wizard in your army that hasn't been selected to shoot gets an extra 9 inches to all of their psychic weapons. And every time you make an attack with those weapons, you can reroll hit rolls and reroll wound rolls. So good.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild. Do you know of any CP reducing abilities in this, or is this always just going to cost you 2? I didn't find any CP reduction in this book.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to cost 2 CP always. But one of the cool things I think about a lot of the stratagems here is with the expression of egotistical power, where you're trying to slip somebody into another doctrine, you don't really need the stratagem support. Stratagems are all like utility pieces that are really useful,
Correct.
which means that you will probably be able to save up and get some good stuff if you want to. And to me, when it says Thousand Suns Psyker unit from your army, what that really means is 1 Magnus, the red from your army. So that's
I mean, a big unit of termies, sure. I guess you could get away with that too. The fact is that you have a plus 6-inch range in your army, in every army. In this detachment, and then you have a plus 9-inch range, so you can get plus 15-inch range to your guns, like kind of on demand. It's
just go yard.
Wild.
Yeah, it's pretty
wild. But how do you feel about this detachment in totality?
I think it's very strong. I think it is a much better design version of the index attachment. The index attachment was too strong with being able to stay in devastating moves every time. This feels like a much Lord Forbidden Lore was absurd. This feels like a much more, I'm going to put in air quotes, fair version of that of that index attachment. So, but still very powerful, still very good. I think this is
this detachment meets my my well-rounded meal, my 4 corners meal kind of tick of approval for a detachment. You have an army, you have a detachment rule that isn't shite. You have at least minimum 2 very takeable enhancements. I think there's 3 takeable enhancements here. And then you have stratagems that increase your durability, stratagems that that increase your your logistics of play via the sticky objectives, like they increase your utility of play. You have damage increasing buffs, and you have utility buffs here. I think this is a fantastic, well-rounded detachment.
Yeah, agreed. Very good.
Yeah, perfect place for people to start with this new book. All right, next up, Change Host of Deceit. So this is your, you take your demons in your army, you get 1,000 points of the demons. None of them can be your warlord, all have to be the Scintillating Legion, of course. And then your Infernal Pacts is your detachment rule. Scintillating Legion models from your army have the following ability, which is Demonic Illusions. While a friendly 1,000 Suns Psyker unit is within 6 of invisible to this unit, models in that unit have a 4+ invulnerable save against ranged attacks. So they give out a 4+ invuln to your 1,000 Suns models. And then that's 1,000 Suns models get, while a friendly Scintillating Legion Psyker unit is within 6 invisible to this unit, that Scintillating Legion unit has the Cabalistic sorcerer's ability. So they'll be able to generate your, they'll cast your Oath, they'll do your Doom Bolt, they'll do stuff like that for you as well. How do you feel about that detachment rule? Then did I miss anything?
No, I think that sounds right to me. I mean, yeah, you mentioned the 1,000 points of those guys. So I think the rule is actually pretty cool. I mean, I actually think the Scintillating Legion's units gaining Cabal Sorcerers is really powerful. The problem is, as we get to unit choices, a lot of the really cool characters and Psyker units that you'd want to give that to just aren't an option to take. So you end up giving it to just big birds. And that's powerful still, but it's not as powerful as it could be, I don't think.
Yeah, agreed. I still think this is one of the better, once we get through it all, I think this is one of the better, I guess it's what Zinch Demonkin is the way to talk about this. It's one of the better ones, but I'm relatively low on all of these. I mean, they had to give the best stratagem in the freaking game to the Khorne one for it to be kind of looked at relatively. All right, into the enhancements. First of which is the Nethershriek Mind Eater. Fantastic name.
Great.
1,000 Suns or Lord of Change model only. At the start of the shooting phase, select one enemy unit within 12 of invisible to the bearer. That bearer must take a battle shock test. If failed, they suffer 3 mortal wounds. Have you found any way to do any leadership shenanigans? Can you make them fail more readily, or is it just luck?
It's not a lot of manipulation. That I don't even know if there is any. I'll be honest.
I can't think of any right now. So very similar.
Range. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the same as the Chaos Knights one, except the Chaos Knights one, they don't take the 3 mortals, but the Chaos Knights have to be within 12 inches, meaning you're at -1 because of their army rule. So it's not a bad timing because, you can turn off or you can play with people's Overwatch and heroics and things like that. But yeah, it's still not amazing. Diabolic Savant is up next. 1,000 Suns infantry model only, while the bearer is within 6 of one or more friendly skid-laden legions units. Each time the bearer channels the warp, +1 to the psychic result, so +1 to your tests if you're within 6 of a Zinch unit. I'm a bit of a fan of this one. I think it's quite good. We have Duplicitous Maledictions. This is Tsons or Lord of Change model only. After both players have deployed their armies, it's a 3-unit redeploy, but 1,000 Suns units only. So you get to redeploy 3 of your units. And then lastly, Tome of True Names. Infantry model only, so 1,000 Suns infantry model only. Once per battle, at the start of any phase, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does until the end of the phase, the bearer has a 2+ invulnerable save. Very rare, very hard to come by that 2+ invuln. Are these enhancements any good, mate? And if so, what's the pick of the bunch?
I mean, the 2 invuln save is fantastic. We see that with Canonesses. We see that with Makari. Those things with Shadowfields, those are all very powerful. Importantly, you can CP reroll this, which is cool. And then I think the redeploy is really powerful as well, and so is the +1 psychic test. These are all great. None of them, to me, are saying take this detachment because of this. But they're all cool. You definitely ones you would want to take if you're taking this attachment.
Agreed. All right, give us the first of the detachments. So first of the strats.
Sulphurous Veil for 1 CP. Your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase after enemy selected as targets. 1,000 Suns or Scintillating Legions unit from your army that was selected as a target one or more of those units attacks, and your unit gets -1 to hit. Just generally kind of useful. It's -1 to throw is powerful. In fact, it works in fight phase is good.
Yeah, not too bad at all. Changes a lot of the math on killing pink horrors, which I quite like.
Yeah, that's also true very much.
All right, Deceptive Glamour is up next for 2 CP. Start of the fight phase, 1,000 Suns unit from your army. To the end of the phase, each time an enemy model within engagement range of your unit selects the targets for its attacks, it can only target your unit if there are no eligible Scintillating Legion targets for those attacks. So I feel like this is not quite a build around, but this is something you always want to do. Like you put out a unit of Rubrics to flame and toast and roast and all those things, and then you set up a unit of Blue Horrors to heroic intervene if anybody charges, or if and when anybody charges you, and then they have to, for 2 CP, they have to attack the Blue Horrors. That's how I'm reading that.
Yeah, and that's just. I mean, every time that's printed, that's a really, really powerful ability.
Yeah. 3 CP play, like it's printed at 2 CP, but it's actually a 3 CP play because anyone who knows this is there is going to make you have to spend the heroic to do this play. And so you're going to want a big bank of CP if this is part of your modus operandi.
Yeah.
All right,
next one, Ethereal Phantasm, 1 CP. Opponent's movement phase after they end a normal advance or fallback. Pick a Tzeentch Demon unit within 9 inches of that enemy unit. Now with an engagement, you can make a normal move of D6, or if you are wholly within 6 of one of a friendly 1,000 Suns unit, when you start that move, you can make a flat 6-inch move, which is pretty cool.
The wholly within is the annoying part. So you can't have really strung out pink horrors, and it's actually quite hard to get a whole Lord of Change. Like you have to pretty much be in base to base with the 1,000 Suns unit to guarantee the Lord of Change is wholly within 6 because that big old base. But yeah, pretty good if you can pull it off.
Yeah, for sure.
1 CP Fractal Disjunction. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit selected as targets. 1 Scintillating Legion units from your army that isn't a monster that was selected to target of one of those units' attacks. And to the end of the phase, your unit can only be selected if it is within 18. So 18-inch lone up. This is a frustrating one because naturally the only place you really wanted to use this was on a lock, and that's the only place you can't use it. So this is almost a dead stratagem to me. But hey, we do what we can.
I think it's quite good on horrors. I think that horrors are a unit which wants to control what can activate into them so that you can try and like, scam your opponent a bit and hit a couple 4s. And anyway, that helps enhance that, I think, is good. And you have the -1 to hit coupled with the 18-inch lone up. Your opponent has to get a little aggressive to try and deal with you.
That is true. That is very true. What's the next one?
The next one, oh god, Chronos Sorcerer's Bleed. There it is.
You did it.
Your opponent's store charge phase just after enemy declares a charge. A 1,000 Suns Wizard or a demon unit from your army that was selected as the target of that charge. The enemy unit gets -2 to the charge roll.
Oof.
That's good.
Huge fan.
It's very good. Yeah, very, very good.
Might be the best strat of the bunch. It might just be the best strat of the bunch. Not because you're going to use it that often, but you're going to tell your opponent about it every turn. It's going to really dramatically change how they have to play, and also completely shuts down charges from reserve, essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Last one, Glimmer Shift Portal for 1 CP, end of your opponent's fight phase. It's uppy downy. So up to 2 demon units from your army or 1 monster unit from your army. So 2 demon units that aren't monsters or 1 monster that is more than 3 inches away from all enemy units, put them in strat reserve, 1 CP. Yeah, exactly right. I love that strat. That's a fantastic strat. Uppy downy Flamers is quite good in some matchups, probably better in teams than you would in singles play, but in teams it can be very good. And or just Fate Weaver, just a lot of change, all that stuff is nice. How do you evaluate this whole package, mate? And what do you think of the change host?
To me, the biggest thing that this attachment gives you is the ability to take Tzeentch demons with your 1,000 Suns, which is awesome. Taking horrors, taking flamers, taking screamers, these are all really, really useful tools that give 1,000 Suns things they don't have access to. That's great. The stratagems are good. I don't think there's really any that on their surface I'm like, this is bananas. I need to do this attachment because of this. But I do think the added benefit of demons in 1,000 Suns changes the dynamic of how the army plays enough that you're looking at this. Yeah. And these stratagems aren't bad in the sense of like, you're like, oh, I'm sacrificing a bad detachment to do this. You're just not doing this attachment because of the stratagem.
Yeah. Agreed. I genuinely, like I said, I think it's one of the better, if not the best, most well-rounded and least clunky of the Demonkin variants that we've had so far. So I'm pretty high on it. I think it's relatively good. And the fact of the matter is that kind of every Tzeentch demon data sheet is in a pretty good place. Like,
yeah, agreed.
Is actually in a pretty good place. Whereas the Khorne ones are, they're good for like one thing only, not great in a bunch of different matchups. All right, Warpmeld Pact is up next, and this is the one you will find that buffs all your Zangor using this. So they gave him a second Zangor detachment over and above the Grotmus one. The Warpmeld Sacrifice is the detachment rule. Each time an enemy unit is selected to shoot or fight, and 1 or more Tzeentch mutant units from your army are selected as a target of 1 or more of those attacks, each of those Tzeentch mutant units can make a Warpmeld Sacrifice. If it does, that Tzeentch demon mutant unit, suffers D3 mortal wounds until the end of the phase. Each time an attack targets your unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. Each time a Tzeentch mutant unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight, you can do the same thing and get +1 to wound. So you're going to be hurting yourself, but doing a bunch of good stuff. Either be -1 to wound or +1 to wound, depending whose activation it is. And then keywords wise, Zangor units from your army have battle line, meaning they don't have battle line naturally. And while such a unit is not battle shocked, you get +1 OC on all your Zangor units. How do you feel about this, my dude? Because it is a very powerful thing, except for the fact that you're punching yourself in your army, even with +1 to wound. I looked at a bunch of the profiles, and I'm like, I'm not sure +1 to wound is going to make these things do damage, but I'll see
I actually think this is one of the most powerful attachments in the Codex.
Awesome.
So there's a couple things that are really important. The most important one being Zangors aren't the only Tzeentch mutants. Mutilith Vortex Beasts are also Tzeentch mutants. And a T10, 5 of Invuln Save, 5 of Feel No Pain creature that then has access to -1 to wound. Very good.
And you get to Feel No Pain, the D3 mortal wounds you do to yourself.
Yeah, really powerful. Also, spawns, which are already pretty scammy, have this ability as well. So they're also Tzeentch mutants. So you get a couple ways of using it that are quite powerful. There's also a couple more tricks we're going to get to later in this attachment that are very strong. So I think this is actually a very good attachment.
Awesome. Well, give us the full pack of the enhancements.
So the first one is Warpmeld Dagger. Give it to his Zangor Shaman. Each time the bearer attempts a ritual before attempting this, determining the result of your cast, you can use the enhancement. If so, the bearer takes D3 mortal wounds as he cuts himself, and then you get +1 to the psychic test for each one of those wounds suffered. So it could be up to +3 to his cast.
Yeah, so this is a better way of scamming your rolls instead of adding the additional D6, because of course if you add the additional D6, your 4-wound model is going to take 2 D3 mortal wounds and it has good odds of dying. So I think this is a if and when you need it, right?
Mm-hmm. Then we have the Diamond of Distortion. Zangor Shaman, when the bearer is leading a unit, each time an attack, melee or shooting, targets them, -1 to hit.
Nice.
Useful. And then we have Braylord, Sorcerer or Infernal Master. The bearer gains Scout 6, and then they can also join Zangor units, which is pretty cool. And Zangor units, as we'll get to later, which is going to be important for this detachment, have a data sheet ability. They're within 6 inches of the edge of your board. They can go up and down in the strat reserve.
Yep.
And then we have Flowing Flesh, which is a Zangor Shaman ability. Bearer has a Fiona Pain of 4+ and a Wounds characteristic of 5. Makes them actually rather difficult to shift.
I'm a big fan of that one. I think that's a banger. And that's the guy you just always roll the 3 dice on for everything he's trying to do. Always the 3 dice, because you're going to negate half of the mortal wounds should you take him. What's the pick of the bunch here?
One thing I think that is important to specify is that if you do fail the channel or you get the doubles or triples, the model itself doesn't have to take the wounds, just the unit.
It's the unit, correct.
Yeah,
I should have pointed that out.
Yeah, so that's pretty helpful in situations, especially when you talk about Zangors. That Warpmeld dagger, you can stab yourself and then lose a bunch of goats. That's pretty cool, or lose a Rubric Marine or something like that. So you definitely will be in a spot where you're going to be like, do I want to channel because my head might explode, but you're not there almost immediately. So that's cool.
Yeah, correct. Yep. So far, like there is. I mean, I would love an Infernal Master adjoining Zangors. I think that's good. Scouting up the table, that seems very good. The 4+ Feel No Pain and 5 wounds is very good. And yeah, the dagger is very good. Actually, all of these are pretty takeable. The -1 to hit, when you couple that with a -1 to wound possibility as well, I think all these enhancements are fairly takeable.
Yeah, I think they're all great. I mean, the idea of an Infernal Master going up and down with
Zangors,
as often as you want with Zangors, pretty silly. I like that.
All right, gift of change is the first of the strats for 1 CP. It's any phase. 1,000 Suns character model from your army that isn't a monster that was just destroyed. You can use the strat even though it's just destroyed. Here's your classic. Everyone kills that guy more better. At the end of the phase, add 1 Tzeentch Chaos Spawn containing 1 model to your army. Set up as close as possible that isn't in engagement range. So you essentially 1 CP when your character dies, it turns into a spawn. I love it.
It's the best. It's one of my favorite stratagems.
Where's this been? Where's this been this whole edition? The last 2 editions. It should always be a cornerstone of especially 1,000 Suns, if not every Chaos Space Marine.
It's objectively worse than every other res strat in the game, but it is still probably my favorite version of it by a mile. It is so cool. You still get you get a lot of the other benefits. You're just not a wizard anymore. You ascended to a higher plane.
Yeah, I mean, you'll still hold the objective that you're on. You'll still do all those other things. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I love this strat. It's fantastic.
The next strat, Warped Visectitude. I think I got there. This is 1 CP. Your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase after the opponent selects their target. 1 Zangor unit from your army that was selected as a target gets a 4+ invuln save.
Actually, very good. When you couple that with
super good.
Possibly being -1 to hit and -1 to wound, and then having a 4+ invuln. Wow, you can make these guys durable.
And Zangors come in 20-man units, so that's very powerful.
Where's the whiteboard? I want to see the whiteboard that where in 9th edition they were like, let's get rid of all the 20-mans, and then somehow the whiteboard has changed, and let's give back all the 20-mans halfway through the freaking edition.
Look, goats come in big herds, okay? Very large herds roaming around.
All right, Deranged Ferocity is up next for 1 CP. Fight phase, just after a Tzeentch mutant from unit from army selected to fight. And to the end of the phase, you can pile and consolidate 6 inches instead of 3. And when determining which models are eligible to fight, you can fight if everything within 3 inches is engagement range. So very similar, exactly the same as, I believe, one of the Green Tide Orc stratagems. But the fact that you get 1 CP 6-inch pile and consolidate strapped to the usual 1 CP 3-inch engagement range makes this a bit of a banger.
Yeah, for sure. And also, again, it's Tzeentch Mutant, which means it works on Vortex Beasts, it works on Spawns. Correct. You guys can be zipping around doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that strat. I think it's excellent.
Yeah. Next one, Blessed Transmutations. Command phase. 1,000 Sun Psyker model from your army and a Zangor unit that is below starting strength within 12 of them. Return D3 +1 destroyed models, excluding characters, to that unit.
Amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got to do that trick that people love to do, where you put a couple guys on an objective, they get shot down, you put them back out. And we're just talking about how resilient these Zangors can be. Yep.
And 2 is the magic number of how many you want to resurrect. You want to guarantee a resurrection because of daisy chaining, because of coherency stuff, because of all those things. I'm a huge fan of this strat. I think it's great as well.
Yeah,
All right,
very good.
touched by Tzinch for 1 CP. Starting your movement phase, 1 mutant unit from your army. And to the end of the phase, they're eligible to shoot and/or declare a charge in the turn in which they advanced. Fan-freaking-tastic. Not that I think the shooting is going to give you that much on your actual Zangor units, but on the Mutalith Beast and on the bow guys, the Great Bow, whatever they're called, it's actually pretty.
Yeah, there's the fact that you can also double move as well. So you're really talking like an advance of D6+6 up to on your 10-inch moving guy. That guy flies, right?
Does.
That's really, really powerful.
Last one.
Last one, Twisted Mirage. Reinforcement step of your movement phase. Pick a Tzinch mutant unit from in your army. That unit can be set up held on the battlefield anywhere within, it says 3, but it will probably be becoming 6, horizontally away from enemy units, or it can be anywhere on the battlefield that's 9 inches away from things if it's a monster. And you can't charge in either case. So what this is essentially doing is it gives your Tzinch unit deep strike and then 6-inch deep strike for little boys, and the big monsters get 9.
Yeah, and the fact you got 1 CP, just taking what was in Strat Reserve and making it a 6-inch deep strike for 1 CP is pretty freaking good, actually.
This is insane. Okay, so let me paint a picture for you here. So we talked about these 20-man units of Zangors with -1 to hit, -1 to wound, and a 4 invuln save. So now we put 1 into reserve, and then we bring it down 6 inches away from the enemy line, and then we cast double move on it and move it 1 inch away from the enemy line, 20 inches long around their entire deployment zone. They then have to remove it with a 4 invuln save, -1 to wound, -1 to hit. While your Thousand Sons army then stages up behind all the walls. This is very powerful.
Yeah, this is the jail strat, right? This is the jail strat of this army, of this entire codex.
It's not expensive to do.
No, it's not pricey at all. Like, Zangors are relatively cheap, and the characters that go with them are relatively cheap. And I think it's actually really good.
This thing is one of the better stratagems. Better attachments.
And I agree with you. I think this is one of the better attachments. They finally did Zangors well. They finally did it. And they just had to give them +1 to hit, so +1 to wound and -1 to wound on demand. Who would have thought? Who would have thought those were 2 good rules, hey? All right. Jumping down to the Rubric Phalanx. This is one of my favies because the detachment rules are bringing back one of the things that they've had for as long as they've been in the game, pretty much. This is All Is Dust. Each time an attack with an unmodified damage characteristic of 1 is allocated to a Rubric model from your army, add 1 to any armor saving throws made against that attack. So kind of inverse back around getting to armor contempt the long way. But Rubric is, suffice to say, it is all your Scarab Occult Terminators and all your Rubric Marines and most of your characters, yeah?
Yeah, it's really powerful. I'm not sure what the characters are, but it's Rubric unit. Or is Modwatch, I guess. So rather, I'm not sure if it counts the characters, but for sure the units though, and the Terminators are all getting that rule, and that's really effective. There's a lot of small arms. A lot of small arms are what's going to be getting your guys. Your guys have invuln saves, so the heavier weapons you have a better chance of deflecting. It's when you take a ton of shots that are medium AP, but lots of volume that you then start to run into space issues. And here you're getting +1.
Yep, and you're absolutely right. The characters do not have it because, of course, they're not dusty. The characters are actually alive, so it makes sense. All right, the enhancements are as thus. Risen Rubric is the first one. Thousand Sons model only. At start of the declare battle formation step, select either 2 Rubric battle line units from your army or 1 other Rubric unit from your army, and the models in the selected units have infiltrators. So 2 Rubric Marine units or 1 Scarab Occult Terminator unit is how that actually reads. Get infiltrate, one or the other. And I think that is very good and possibly a reason to play this detachment.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I think that's a great stratagem, or it's great enhancement. Then we have Arcane Thralls. This is an aura ability. While friendly Rubric units within 9 inches, you can reroll battle shocks for them. It would have been a lot better if the army rule worked the way it used to, where battle shocks kind of stopped you from doing cool stuff. And but it's fine. It's a battle shock leadership buff.
Lord of the Rubric. While the bearer is leading a unit, each time Rubric model in that unit makes an attack +1 to hit. And this is one of the combos for you possibly wanting to use the bolters instead of the flamers, because you can have bolters hitting on 2s coming out of a rhino with AP 4.
Well, the other use case for this, and I think what I've personally been using for mostly, is the Terminators, because they hit on 3s. You kick them up to hitting on 2s, and that's super powerful. especially
And
then when you look at getting the reroll ones from the mini oath, not needing the channel. That's also very strong.
I realized I just described a nombo because the the freaking Rhino in this army is possibly the best transport in the game. Is up there because if you shoot at the target the Rhino shoots at, you get +1 to hit and +1 to wound. And
Yeah.
you will not be needing this on that. You'll be hitting on 2. So never mind me.
The last one is one of my favorites, Stave Abominus. Great name. Thousands infantry model. The bearers has melee weapons, have sustained D3 and dev wounds.
Wow. Okay. Infernal Master, right? Flip a 6 on either the sustained or the devs, depending on whichever one you want.
That's so
wow.
Good. Yeah,
wow.
That's really, really, really powerful. I think this is like the Arcane Vortex guy in the index detachment is quite good in combat. This is getting that effect, if not more powerful.
I believe this detachment has the best enhancements possibly of the book. Taking an army that is built to be foot slogging or relatively slow, if not in a transport rubric, and just giving 2 units infiltrate, and then a +1 to hit, and then you have a beefed up infernal master. I think this is quite a good pack. It's like the infiltrate enhancement is probably the single most game-changing or build-around enhancement that we've seen so far. Whether it's worth it for yourself or whether you think it's good is up to you pretty much. But what do you reckon, Brian?
I think these are all really, really good, and I think they definitely make arguments to play them. I mean, obviously the Battleshock one, not as much on there, but you can only take 3, and the 3 you would take are very good.
The other ones.
I would probably argue that I think Arcane Vortex is still the best enhancement in this codex.
Yeah.
But these are all excellent, and I would want to take 3 every time, and that's a sign of job well done.
All right. Ardent Automata is the first of the stratagems for 1 CP. It's in your movement phase just after a Rubric unit from your army falls back. That unit is still eligible to shoot and declare a charge in the turn in which it fell back. Absolutely necessary on Rubric units, 100%, because dang, I want to be tapping those with all my empty transports ASAP. It shuts them down really nice. But then 1 CP, nope, didn't shut down anything. I like it.
That is, it's so powerful. I mean, that's one of the ways that people get you, right? Is you're in a Rhino, they blow up the Rhino, and then they cascade into you, tag you, and then suddenly your unit that has the power of the sun in its hands can't activate it.
Yeah, it's useless.
And now you're like, just kidding, guys. I'm going to fall back and I'm going to obliterate you. So that is very, very strong.
Next up,
Inexorable Advance. In your movement phase, a Rubric unit from your army. They get to ignore all modifiers to their move characteristic in advance, and then all their ranged weapons gain assault.
Wow.
It's so good. I mean, so we just hit 1-2 back-to-back best archetypical stratagems in the game that just let you play Warhammer. That's so good.
Correct. Yeah. And the fact that it's in your movement phase, not the start of the movement phase, so you can disembark and then use this. Yeah, it's extremely good. Hell, you can disembark and then, you advance out of the transport and then, start of the shooting phase, move again. It's, fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah, really good.
Infernal Fusillade is next for 2 CP. Your shooting phase, 1 psychic unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, all Inferno bolt pistols, all your bolt guns have the psychic and strength of 5. I have yet to find a huge amount of stuff that makes me want to be psychic, but the strength is nice.
Well, the main one is you come out of Rhino and you're like, my bolter squad is all now strength 5 with +1 to hit, +1 to win because they're psychic weapons now. So that's the main use case, I would think.
It is. And finally, having played Grey Knights, like I've got like 35 games with Grey Knights under my belt, man, having the psychic keyword on your attacks is like 80% of the time a downside. So very happy to see some upsides here.
Yeah, for sure. Next stratagem we have is Revenge of the Rubrici. For 1 CP, your opponent's shooting phase after a 1,000-ton Psyker model from your army is destroyed. Pick a Rubric unit from your army that is within 6 inches of that Psyker model when it was destroyed. After the attacking unit is shot, your Rubric unit can shoot as if it's a shooting phase, and when resolving those attacks, have to target the unit that destroyed your wizard. I think it's quite good, especially when you start to do things like pair Rubric Marines with Terminators, because Terminators are very tough and hard to shift, especially with shooting, and Rubric Marines are not. So now you get to say, hey, guess what? You killed my wizard and my Rubric unit. That's fine. I got a second shooting phase with my Terminators now to kind of deal with that.
Cool. I'm also a big fan of the fact that when Tsons were at their zenith, a lot of people were trying really hard to find quality precision to just snipe out the characters, because once the character dies, cool, you got 5 flamers, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So I like the idea of, because you can do this on the same unit. If someone snipes, if you got a unit of Rubric with 5 flamers and someone rocks up with a Death Jester or whatever and snipes out your Infernal Master, that same unit gets to shoot that guy, yeah? Yeah. I like that as well. It's a little precision insurance.
Yeah, no, for sure.
All right, Implacable Guardians, 2 CP. Your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit selected as targets, 1 Rubric Marine Psyker unit, so just Rubrics, from your army that was selected as a target. Until the end of the phase, each time attack is allocated to a model in your unit, -1 from the damage, which of course you can use to make them go from damage 2 to damage 1 and trigger All Is Dust, yeah?
Well, All's Dust, I think, is unmodified damage of 1, so I don't think it quite works there, which is unfortunate.
Oh, yeah, that's
really
correct.
cool.
Unmodified. Yep. So they did think about that and make sure that was in there.
But this is still, I mean, -1 damage is just powerful. I mean, especially when you look at, I'm going to put it on my Terminators. I'm going to put it on my, even your Rubric Marines. You know, suddenly these like damage to weapons that should be, blowing heads off of Rubric Marines suddenly take 2 shots to do it.
I think it specifically calls out Rubric Marine Psyker, so I don't think you can do it on the Scarabs.
1 Rubric Marine Psyker unit from your army.
Oh, so is that actually Scarab called Terminators as well?
Oh, that's a good shot, actually. The fact that it's a Rubric Marines means you probably can't do it on those. I think you're actually right.
Yeah.
But still, damage. You have 2 wounds, and then also an important change here is that your wizard in your Rubric Marine units went up to 3 wounds.
Yes, they're knobs. They're knobs. They got the knob treatment. They got the extra wound on top of, and that's the same for the Scarab called sorcerer as well. So they're actually just like a character, just like a sorcerer.
So you think about it like, your damage 2 means that it takes 2 shots of Heavy Bolter to kill a Rubric Marine. It takes 3 to kill that wizard.
Yeah.
And that's quite powerful.
It is. Last one, mate.
The last one is Unwavering Phalanx for 1 CP. Your opponent's charge phase, after enemy finishes a charge move, your Rubric Marine unit from your army that's within engage range of that unit, every time they target you with an attack, -1 to wound.
1 CP only. And the fact that you have this and 1 CP, fall back and do whatever you want, oh man, so strong.
Yeah, it's one thing that's also important here is every unit that targets you gets the -1 to wound, not just the one that charged you. So if you were to get hit by multiple units, they would both be at -1.
Yep. Because each time an attack targets you, not that your unit. So yeah, you do it when they've successfully done a charge. So the timing's very good. So you get to see if they've made their charge before you do it. It's not face up like start of the charge phase or anything. Though it is weird timing. So why not just do it at the start of the fight phase? Doesn't really make any sense for it to be.
Yeah, the timing's a little strange. I do think it gives your opponent a bit of knowledge there, where you're like, oh well, they're on -1, so I'm not going to double up there or something, or I will need to double up. So maybe that's why, but that timing is a little strange. It's unique.
This to me is my favorite of the detachments. I don't think it's the most powerful. I think it's in the middle of the pack power wise. But I like it just because to me, Rubric A is the identity that I like most about Tsons. How do you feel about this detachment?
I think this is quite strong. I think that it makes your Rubric A units very dynamic, very good. It takes away some of the fundamental ways that people play around Rubrics. And I don't actually think that Rubric Marines need much help from detachments to be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
So any detachment that then makes them even better and more you're more able to be used and kind of activate throughout the game is awesome. So I think this is very good. Yeah,
I'm also of the opinion that Rubric Marines have been top 3 battle line units in the game since the start of the edition. When you factor them up, it's like Necron Warriors, depending on the meta, depending on the timing, Rubric Marines and like Plague Marines are like the 3 of the best battle line units in the game. And the fact that this just makes them better is kind of nuts.
Mm-hmm.
All right, into the last of the detachments, Warpforged Cabal. All right, Warpfire Infusion is the detachment rule. Each time a Thousand Suns vehicle unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight, apply one of the following when resolving those attacks. If the unit is within 6 of 1 or more friendly Thousand Suns Psyker units, you can reroll 1 hit roll, 1 rune roll, and 1 damage roll during that unit's attacks. Or if they're not, you get one of those. You get one hit, one wound, or one damage roll. And then each time a Thousand Suns vehicle model from your army with the Deadly Demise ability is destroyed while within 6 of a Psyker, they blow on a 5 instead of a 6. Upside downside. I'm a big fan. I like this a lot. This is cool. I wish there was more. I wish there was more upside downsides that are thematic like that, because I love that. That tickles my cockles. How do you feel about this attachment rule?
I think it's great. I mean, we've seen this kind of archetype before. It's always powerful.
Mindstorm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when you combine this with some of the army rules where you get access to extra AP, you get access to Oath of Moments, it's very good.
Yeah, and of course you still have access to Predators in this, unlike Emperor's Children, and you still have access to Vindicators in this book, unlike Emperor's Children. So the car park is very much alive and well. Of course, you still have the Forge Fiends as well. Not as good as the World Leaders Forge Fiends, but they're still worth a look in.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan. Tell us about the enhancements, my dude.
Warp Siphon, 1,000 Suns model only, while within 6 inches of a 1,000 Suns vehicle unit. Each time the bearer channels the warp, before you roll the extra d6, or after you roll the additional d6, but before checking for doubles or triples. I'm not entirely sure how I was supposed to do that without you see the dice, but don't register that you roll doubles or triples.
No,
guys.
you can't register.
The bearer can use the enhancement. If it does, select one of those vehicle units that's nearby, and they take a mortal wound, and you can re-roll that d6, which is pretty cool.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
It was very good.
I'm a big fan of this one. I think this is, if you're taking this detachment, I think this is in the list. Perplexing Cloak is up next. 1,000 Suns infantry model only. While the bearer is within 3 of one or more friendly 1,000 Suns vehicle units, you get loan up. Absolutely good. Very good. Lets you take a single character, possibly on a disc that just jumps around, gets loan up wherever they want. Throw a Doom Bolt while being loan up. That seems pretty good. Also, you can just buff all your guys, give them all the rerolls, and not need to take a tax unit to keep you safe.
Yeah, for sure. Next one, Biomedical Mutation, is the second half of the Tech Marine. 1,000 Suns model within 6 inches of a 1,000 Suns vehicle in your command phase can heal that model for D3 wounds.
Yep. I see this one as pretty mid. I actually probably wouldn't bother.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It's a points thing. You have the extra space. It's worth taking. It's not worth building for.
Yeah. And then the last one is Warp Cursed Rune Master, is plus 6 inch range to your rituals whilst within 6 of a 1,000 Suns vehicle, which will change all the ranges from 24 to 30. And if you're sitting at the back in the back line in your DZ buffing up your tank castle, that's actually going to come up a lot, because it means you get to reach pretty much all the way into the entire midboard is kind of covered by this. This is why I was talking about characters on discs being the things you want to jump around and use to buff you guys. What do you reckon about that one?
I think it's great. I mean, it's one you're probably going to be taking with this attachment almost every time. That and the loan up, to me, strike me as the most important ones, and so does Warp Siphon. I mean, that's 3 really good enhancements in this attachment, I think, for sure. And I think what you're describing here with the wizards kind of jumping around, trying to be solo boys, then just kind of buff your vehicles is really powerful. You put Oath of Moments where you need it, when you need it. Maybe toss a Doom Bolt downrange to help with the vehicle's targets. Very good.
Yeah, agreed. All right, into the strats, first of which is Hex-marked armor. 1 CP, your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase. Just after an enemy unit selected as targets, 1 vehicle unit from your army that was selected. Armor Contempt on your vehicles. 1 CP, armor Contempt on your vehicles. Damn good. Damn.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, very powerful. 1 CP, Mutate Landscape. In your command phase, you pick a wizard that's within range, or your wizard unit within range of an objective marker you control. That objective becomes mutated, so it remains under your control. And while it's mutated and under your control, whenever an enemy ends a normal advance or fallback move on it, on a 4-up, they take D3 mortal wounds.
I love this.
Yeah,
I love this sticky with a rider, like sticky with a deterrent. I'm a big fan of that. I think it's cool. All right, Cyber Spirit Machinations, 1 CP. Your movement phase just after 1,000 Suns vehicle unit falls back. If they're within 6 of friendly Psyker, until the end of the turn, your vehicle is eligible to shoot and declare a charge at a turn at which it fell back. Lol, no downsides. Just come and try and tap me. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's it's incredible. All these abilities are always, whenever they're printed, are really, really, really powerful. Malevolent Animus, 1 CP, your command phase, 1,000 Suns vehicle army within 6 inches of another wizard unit. Until starting next command phase, your vehicle becomes malevolent. Whenever it's malevolent, you ignore all modifiers to its weapon skill, ballistic skill, of weapons equipped to any roll or test made for it, excluding modifiers to saving throws.
Yeah, fair. I mean, you're going to know when this is good, right? And there's a lot of matchups where it just doesn't come up.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
This
I'm trying
this
to.
is one stratagem which I feel like there's like something I'm missing and I haven't
Me
placed
too.
it yet. But I haven't found it yet. So maybe there's
Yeah,
something
me
out
either.
there and I'm gonna find it in August in Leoben, and be very sad. But
Yeah.
for the moment, I'm not quite sure. It's a useful tool.
Fair. 1 CP in Sorcerer's Infusion. It's your shooting phase. 1,000 tons vehicle unit from your army. That's within 6 of a Psyker. At the end of the phase, ranged weapons by vehicles in your models in your unit have Psychic. At each time an attack is made with such a weapon, add 1 to the wound roll. 1 CP plus 1 to wound. Oh my god, that's really good.
It's so powerful. Yeah, it's all the weapons too. You're
Yeah, it's all
just
the weapons.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
The
very,
freaking
very
Havoc
good.
Launcher. Yeah.
Yeah. This turns a rhino into an absurd gunship, right? You
It
just
does.
shoot out of
Yeah.
the firing deck with 2 Soul Reaper cannons.
Correct. Yeah.
Plus 1 wound. That's so
Literally.
good. Yeah.
Your Rhino is in fact Predator. 1 CP.
It's so good.
Really good. Yeah, that's the build around strat. That's the like use it every turn. There's 5 CP just banked in my game. Just a +1 to wound every turn.
Yeah. Super good.
Last one.
The last one, Warflame Gargoyles for 1 CP. Your opponent's charge phase, after an enemy unit ends a charge move, your vehicle unit that's engaging with it can roll 66. Every 5+, they take a mortal wound, and then you take a battle shock test, or the enemy takes a battle shock test.
I actually really like this one.
It's cool. It's definitely really useful. It's nice to have a responsive thing that could help you kind of get out of a jam. The battle shock is really useful, especially for the follow-up turn, where maybe your opponent has a reactive move or something really tricky they're trying to do, and now suddenly they can't. That's pretty cool.
They're trying to flip your primary, and you just
Exactly.
put a little bit of uncertainty on them.
Yeah.
Like, well, you've got a leadership 7 unit, or worse, a unit of trashy guardsmen come try and flip my objective, so they are leadership 7, and you're just like, you have to charge to get on the objective, and if you charge me, you're going to take, arguably it's going to be 2 mortals and a battle shock test. I think it's very good to put some uncertainty on your opponent. This is a well put together vehicle detachment. It is very well put together, and the fact that you have, like I said, Predators, Vindicators, Forge Fiends, Defilers, and the new unit, which we will talk about momentarily. How do you feel about this as a package?
I think this is quite good. I think it is something which opens up a new and unique way to build Thousand Suns, which are going to be a lot of fun to kind of explore. The power level is good. The vehicles in Tsons are proven vehicles. They are powerful vehicles.
Yep.
You've seen them in many Chaos armies before. So, yeah, I think it's a matter of just finding the right combination of stuff to see if this is more powerful than the index. But this is good.
I love that you say a new way to build. Didn't you take literally what this build will be to a WTC recently? Hey, Mr. Brian, hey.
Look, let's not worry about context, all right? That's for cowards. But also, that was a lot of Vortex Beasts and stuff like that. This is probably going to look more like Predators and maybe some Vindicators and stuff, which will be pretty interesting, right? Seeing those in Tsons, because it's something you've seen in a while.
It's going to look like Skark's list from the same year, pretty much. Where
Except it's going to be
triple pred.
It's going to be blue, and you're going to have some wizards floating around chucking balls as well. Which sounds totally fine, right? That's
it's totally fine. Fine. All right, mate. That brings us to the end of the detachments, and of course, we're gonna rank these detachments over on the other side, over on the part 2, because we have data sheets to talk about here. Now, there is a lot of the same and a lot of the different. So, quickly talking about Magnus, I think his data sheet, his numbers are all the same. He's movement 12, toughness 11, 2+4 up, 16 wounds, etc. And I even think so. He's got a little bit of an increase to his ranged profiles. 3d3 strength 11, which I think is more than he had on his Gazer Magnus previously at AP 2/3 damage. And then Firestorm it was devastating wounds, of course, as well on Gazer Magnus still. And then Sigis Firestorm is blast ignores cover at D6 +3 at 612. And if I remember correctly, I think those numbers have gone up. I think that was 5 and 10 previously, and now it's 11 and 6 on the strength.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was a 9 or 10, but importantly, he had a rule in his sheet which helped with that particular thing. So the extra strength here is really great. I also don't think Tzeentch's Firestorm used to ignore cover, which is nice. You had a stratagem that could get you to ignore cover.
That's right.
But I don't think, looking at it right now, it was 9 and 5. And it did not ignore cover. So that's a buff all around. That's really good.
Absolutely.
Really nice.
His 3 Primarch abilities is, of course, he still has the -1 damage. He still has, so that's his personal -1 damage, not Nora. At start opponent's shooting phase, you can, of course, give something hazardous within 24. And then the other one is add 2 to the move characteristic of units within 6. And I think that one is very quite good. And then he also has +2 to do his psychic test. So he has +2 to cast, making him reach the second tiers very consistently.
He also gets to cast 2 spells.
Oh, that's correct.
Really important. Yeah, so that's good. Another big change is he lost the aura of +1 to hit, +1 wound. Those kind of got attached to another data sheet here, as we'll see. And the other big change is his melee weapons. His sweep went up to damage 2, and that's big.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, that's really big. So overall, I actually think this is a bit of a lateral move for Magnus.
Me too.
Your army is like less attached to him, being where they kind of before he kind of your army pivoted around him. Now he is a tool in your army, which is really powerful. He can go on adventures. He's really good. Also, I've written lists with him. I've written lists without him. I think he's worth taking. I think you don't need him, and that's the perfect spot for a Primarch to me.
I think he might be the best done Primarch we've seen so far, where he's not auto take, but he is worth considering in every archetype.
The only thing I don't like about it is that you said he has 3 Primarch abilities. He really has 2.
He's 2.
That has
this one.
Just terrible.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand why.
Go straight to hell. Doesn't do anything. Ahriman now gets +1 to cast his rituals. Apart from that, he's relatively the same. Has anything dramatically changed here? You get your
actually a number of things. So first off, he's only on disc. He's not available on foot.
Yeah, it's true.
But he's infantry and mounted now, which is an interesting combination we haven't seen very much before. He no longer has a leader ability. He can still lead, but he doesn't have a leader ability. So he used to give his unit +1 to wound when he led.
Yeah.
Now he just has 2 abilities. One is, as you said, +1 to cast on psychic tests. That's really useful, kind of a mini Magnus. And then also he gives you a redeploy of 3 units, which is also super useful. And the other big change he's had is that his gun, which used to be a single shot that was like pretty powerful shot, but was a single shot, is now a D6 +1 blast shot. That's 6/1 D3. And that's pretty cool.
It is. I'm still. Sorry, I totally forgot he lost his. I was waiting for the one on foot to give the +1 to win, but that thing doesn't exist. I'm actually a little down on Magnus, to be honest. Sorry, on Ahriman, to be honest. It's weird.
Yeah. So I was a bit as well, but I've been starting to try him out a bit more, and I actually quite like him. He's a useful tool. For kind of holding the backfield, kind of running around, doing spells. The +1 to cast is really good, especially when we combine it with some of the other ways to manipulate your rolls. He's kind of quick for a Tsons model, moving 10. So I think he's a pretty useful tool, and the redeploy is pretty powerful with some of the stuff you have here. Obviously, as we listed in detachments, there's a couple ways to get that as well, but this lets you put it in things like the index detachment, and the idea of redeploying a Magnus is rather exciting for me. So that's pretty cool. So I think he's again a tool which is really good to take, but you don't need him.
Infernal Master up next, who gives +1 to his unit and also still has to flip a 6, and the Fires of the Abyss is still extremely freaking good. The supercharged version is still 2d6 at 6/1, which goes to 7/2, of course, with Vortex still, which is absolutely bonkers. Yeah, he's auto take. He should be in every list.
I think he's basically exactly the same as he has been. He's still just as good.
Sork gives lethals now, doesn't have the loan up 18, but once per battle in your shooting phase or the fight phase, you can try and go Super Saiyan with him. If it does until the end of the phase, improve the strength and attack characteristic of psychic weapons equipped by this model by 3. So you'll have 9 shots with your
9 shots with your sustained 3 gun. At strength 8, AP 1 damage that are psychic. One important change is I'm pretty sure the Thousand Suns sorcerer before was a 12-inch range. He was quite short. Now he's 24.
Yeah, 24. Yeah.
That's a huge buff. I think this guy's awesome.
I think he's fantastic. So Lethals is great. Also, you will notice that both the Infernal Master and the Sorcerer both have abilities that will just do nothing for a Flamer unit of Rubrics. And Lethals, cool, nothing. They
It does
really
work-
want
it
you
does
to.
work
They
with
really
the-
want you to try the bolters. They really
Yeah.
want you to try the bolters, guys.
It does work with the Soul Reaper cannon, which is nice.
That's
and
true.
Does work in combat as well, which coming up decent amount. One other thing, which is I think important, and I don't remember if the sorcerer had this before. I don't think the Infernal Master did, but they both have the grenade keyword. I know that
Grenades.
grenades were kind of scattered throughout the characters for Tsons. I think they're much more common now, so you don't have to kind of figure out which ones had it, which ones don't. I'm pretty sure just about all the characters now have grenades.
Beautiful. Tell us about the Exalted Talk.
The Exalted Sorcerer. This is the foot one. He general stats are basically the same. He's got a similar gun he had before with the blast D6 shots, hitting on 2, 6, 2, D3. Built-in dev wounds. That's really useful. Similar combat attacks to what he had before. He gives his unit a 4 invuln save, and in the command phase, while leading a unit, you can reroll. You can roll a D6 on a 1. You take D3 mortal wounds, or your unit rather does. And on 2 to 5, you return a bodyguard unit, and on a 6, you return 2. And that's pretty cool. Actually, this is quite good. And I think one of the reasons is, as we mentioned, Rubric Marine sorcerers are 3 wounds now. You got to kind of sit there and tank them with a 4 invuln save with 3 wounds and be like, kill me. Cool, he's back, right? And that's pretty cool.
I think he's excellent. The one on disc is virtual. No, it's the same. Whilst leading unit, you get to loan up 18 on the sorcerer, the Exalted Sorc on Dick. And in your shooting phase, after the model has shot, select one enemy infantry unit that was hit by one or more of those attacks using its arcane fire. And then there's the -2 to move, advance, and charge. Just move and charge, not advance. The arcane fire, of course, is the same. It is a ignores cover torrent with D6 shots at 6/2 D3 18-inch torrent. It's very good flamer.
For sure. And this is an example of a guy who gained the grenades keyword, which is actually great for this guy.
It's fantastic. How do you feel about him now? So he gets to loan up 18, but only while leading a unit, which, I mean, it disincentivizes the single Exalted Sorcs running around doing all the negative to moves and stuff and then double moving away like they used to, which you can't do now. But still pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's solid. The loan up 18 is a really useful ability. The slow is useful. I mean, already kind of got nerfed before, but the flamer is still really powerful. Flamer, I think it's just good value. He's another good unit, and the grenade keyword I think is quite significant for this guy.
Yeah. All right, Demon Princes. Now, we have seen a lot of improvements made to Demon Princes across all of the, I guess, the cult CSM books. How does the Tsons one shape up?
I actually rate them quite highly. So the Demon Prince of Tzeentch is the foot one. He moves 9 at T10 with a 2 up, 4 up, 10 wounds, OC3. His close combat attacks finally gain psychic. They also gain natural dev wounds, which is incredible. But they're typical Demon Prince attacks with respect to their profiles, 6 attacks at 823 or 12 at 611, but built-in dev wounds and psychic is awesome. His range attacks, he has the 3-shot kind of heavy bolter effect of 522, 3 shots there. But he also gained another gun, which is 24-inch range, 9 shots, hits on 2s, 411, ignores cover, psychic, and sustained.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm a little higher on the DP with wings. I see this guy as a bit of more of a utility piece because of course, he gets the loan up within 3 inches of an infantry unit. And then each time a friendly 1,000-Sun Cycle model dies whilst within 9, this guy gets +1 to cast for the rest of the game to a maximum +2.
So one really cool combo here is we just talked about the Exalted Sorcerer kind of yo-yoing this Rubric Marine Sergeant out there. Every time he dies, your opponent gets +1 to cast, right? That's a really cool little combo.
It's really nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I think this guy's pretty cool, but the wings is also very, very good.
It's giving out an aura of stealth as well to infantry units within 6. Now, let me talk about the Demon Prince with wings. Has the same Dark Blessing, 9 shots, same Infernal Cannon, same devastating wounds, all that stuff. The same profile you would expect on all the ones, 1 less toughness, but a lot more movement. Each time this model makes an attack that targets a character unit, reroll a hit roll of 1 and reroll a wound roll of 1. If they target a psychic character, you get rerolls to hit and rerolls to wound instead. Each time this model destroys a character unit, this model regains up to D3 lost wounds. If it was a psychic model, psychic unit rather, you gain 3 wounds instead. And now here's the spice. Here's the actual spice. When this model is set up on the battlefield using the Deep Strike ability, it can perform an Aether Strike. If it does, it can be set up anywhere on the battlefield. It says 3 inches here, but we know it's going to be 6 inches. Until the end of the turn, its Dark Blessing gets sustained D3 instead of sustained 1. Until the end of the turn, it is not eligible to charge. So you get the Deep Strike down with 9 shots hitting on 2s, sustained D3, ignores cover, strength 4, AP 1, and just kind of 6-inch Deep Strike and clear their backfield for free. Is the way I see that, the way I actually
super
read
powerful. Yeah, it was super powerful. So the most recent time I've tried this out was against Eldar. I deep struck him, ingressed him, overwatched with a sustained D3, then moved him his rather odd 13-inch move characteristic, still fast, but just a weird number. And then Doombolt did something, shot something, charged something. He just was like very, very powerful. So
yeah, dude.
I think he's quite cool. He's quite a cool ability. Yeah,
and
useful.
One of the things I like to see in Tzeentch builds, which is not something I see very often, is proactive aggression stuff that makes me want to play the game aggressively or take an aggressive footing as a Thousand Suns player. Because essentially every rule that they've ever had so far has incentivized inaction, has incentivized doing a little bit every turn to get ahead. I love seeing rules like this built into the Thousand Suns Codex that say, slam this guy down, send him at your opponent, freaking get stuck in with something. And yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah, he's cool. These are all really cool. And it's cool because Thousands of Demon Princes were fine before. These ones are ones you are probably going to look to be trying to take, which is kind of cool.
All right, Sorkin Termiyama, tell us a story.
So his stats are generally about the same. He's got a similar, if I'm correct, ranged weapon in combat. His he gives lethal hits to his unit that he's leading, which is quite powerful.
Very good.
And then he still has a very kind of mid, I think, data sheet rule, which is after you have shot, pick something that was hit by one or more of the attacks in your unit that were psychic, and then until the end of the phase, Thousand Suns units that shoot that target have +1 to hit.
This makes no sense to me. The unit that you want to give +1 to hit to is the one that he's joined to.
Yes.
So if you are taking a Thousand Sun Sorcerer, you're taking a unit of Scarabocol Terminators, which you want to buff in every way possible. You don't want them being the thing that gives out the buffs. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, no, I agreed. It's a weird data sheet rule there. But he holds enhancements and he gives lethal hits, and he's a wizard, and all those things make him worth taking for taking Terminators. So.
All right, let's get to the issue of the day, the Seatar robots. And I got to tell you, these guys suck. Oh my God, was I disappointed when I cracked this open. All right, movement 8, toughness 6, 3 up, 5 up. So 3 up armor, 5 up involved, 4 wounds. So essentially a spawn profile with a 3 up armor save, leadership 7 and 10C. They come with infiltrators and stealth, which is not bad. You can take them in units of 2 or 4. They come stock with heavy warp flamer, the Hellfire missile rack each, which is the same as ones you'll find on the Scarabocol Terminators, which is, of course, the 2 shots at 10 minus 2 flat 3, which is nice. Oh, sorry, Hellfire missile racks used to be D3, or were they flat 3 previously?
They were flat 3.
That's what, yeah, they were D3 like 2 editions ago or some crap in my head. But the heavy warp flamer is just a extra AP heavy flamer. 12 inches, D6 shots, 5-2-1. They can replace that with a melter gun, which is a strength 10 melter gun, essentially. Or they can have the warp flame projector, which comes along with their fist, which is essentially a D3 shot, strength 3 AP1 flamer. And then in combat, they have 3 attacks at 10-2-2. Now, here's the rub. They hit on 4s.
Yeah. One thing that's, I think, so what's important to mention is that they do infiltrate, which is a tool which is not readily available. Built-in stealth is all right. They are vehicles, which is kind of sad. And they get to Overwatch for free, which is cool in a unit of Warflamers. To me, this unit is... It's got to be priced to move, right? If it's priced aggressively cheap, then I think this is a great unit to hunt your opponent's chaff. Right, it's got a bunch of guns. It infiltrates. It gets ahead. It can Overwatch. It feels like a good unit to kind of go chaff hunting, but it's got to be cheap, man. I got to look at it and be like, for like a little bit more than a spawn, I could take a pair of these or something like that. Yeah, and then I'm considering it, right? And without that, I'm just not in that space, which is too bad because these are cool models.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think they could be. I think the design of the models is very cool, but the posing just makes them look so ordinary.
See,
And in this,
my hot
and
take
in
is
this, sorry, go.
my hot take is I think that if you get the kit, you can actually make them look pretty cool.
Yeah, fair. My thing is like in this realm, in this world that we have of dynamic posing, like and even though I do loathe that everything gets its own like little special foot-sized tactical rock on this,
tactical rocks.
in this galaxy where every rock is perfectly foot-shaped somehow. These guys are just standing there, like straight up, very static. They just stand out like the proverbial. And yeah. But anyway, these guys need to be cheap. They just need to be cheap because on face value, I'm like, oh, if these guys are like, they need to be cheaper than like a custody guard, straight up. They're the same defensive profile pretty much as a custody guard with a sword and board, and they kind of don't do anything. So yeah,
and a custodian guard has a 2-up, 5-up, 4-up, right, or a 3-up.
Yeah, these guys have a 3. Yeah, exactly right. These guys have a 3-up, 5-up, same toughness, and but yeah, just kind of don't do anything.
Yeah, so like these guys need to be chaff. That's all it is. Yeah. If they're chaff price, then they're cool. If they're not chaff price, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. All right, Scarab Occult Term has already told you that the Terminator Sorcerer, the Scarab Occult Sorcerer, gets an extra wound, which is absolutely awesome, and of course can do all your rituals and stuff. But tell us about the rest of the package, mate.
Yeah, so a lot of the guns are going to be very similar. Combi Bolters, however, went up in AP to AP2, which is really great. The Malefic Curse, which is kind of the sergeant weapon, lost pistol, which is a little sad, but still very good at AP3. Their combat tragically didn't get significantly better. It's 3 attacks at 5.22. But their data sheet rule is awesome. Yeah, their data sheet rule is if you can have a wizard in your unit, anytime somebody targets your unit, -1 to wound. That is not -1 to wound if higher. That is just straight up -1 to wound. That is awesome.
I think they're good, dude.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see on the points. But if these guys are pointed, kind of similar to where they are now, they got significantly better. Yeah. And I don't think they need an adjoining character. Sure, giving them lethals with the Termisawk is fine, but you don't need it. Like, I think they're fine without it. The only reason you would take a character to put with them is if you had an enhancement that was worth slapping on them. I think these guys are excellent for where they've been for the journey of Thousand Sons players. I think they're almost as good as they've ever been.
Yeah, I agree. They're really, really, really difficult to shift.
Yeah. All right, rubrics. Of course, you get the extra wound on your aspiring sorcerer. Just pretty much everything else is the same. Of course, you get the extra AP on the bolt guns, and they still have the same data sheet ability. And seeing it as one of the best data sheet abilities you could ever possibly have on a unit of rubrics, they are absolutely incredible. And Brian's already told you about the change on the icon of flame, which of course auto-take that 100%, 100% of the time.
The Soul Reaper cannon did gain a pip of AP as well, which is quite powerful.
True. Yes.
So now you're shooting 6 shots at 6.2 which also ignore cover. I mean that's like +2 AP. That's awesome.
Very good gun.
Another significant change is that the Malefic Curse not being a pistol means that you're not shooting the pistol Warp Flamer and the Malefic Curse in the same shooting activation like you were oftentimes before with the Rubric Marine. So it's a slightly less output, but the Soul Reaper gets better to compensate. So overall, I think they're still excellent units.
All right, we're going to speed up at this point. The Predator Destructor has a new data sheet ability, but apart from that, everything else is exactly the same. Each time this model makes a range attack that targets a unit that isn't a monster or vehicle that was hit by one or more psychic attacks made by a Thousand Sun Sorcerer from your army, Thousand Sun Psyker from your army, including Doombolt, improve the strength and AP by 1. So you can get to AP 4 on the Predator Autocannon by using the Cabalistic ritual as well. So I am pretty high on Predator Destructors. I think they're quite good, going to strength 10, AP 2, 3 damage on the autocannons, and then AP 4 on all the las cannons at strength 13, I think is pretty spice.
Yeah, that's great. Combine that with the fact they have access to Oath of Moments, and all these vehicles are going to get buffs.
Yeah. Anything to say about the Annihilator?
I mean, it's got a similar rule where you get to reroll the hit and damage after you've shot it with the wizard. It's a useful tool. I think the Destructor's probably better, and I think there's a couple of the vehicles you're going to take before this, but it's always nice to have las cannons in your pocket. Yeah.
We're going to go extremely fast through this, actually, but the last thing I think we need to spend real time on is the freaking Rhino, which, oh my God, they want you to take rhinos. In your shooting phase, I've already told you about this. After this unit is shot, select an enemy to hit with one or more of those attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly model that disembarked from this transport this turn makes a psychic attack that targets that enemy unit, +1 to freaking hit, +1 to freaking wound, my man. Is this the best rhino in the game?
It is incredible. It is so good. We were mad when I was reading through this. I was like, oh, where the Magnus ability's gone. That really sucks. Then I saw they strapped it to a rhino, and your army will make so you can fight out of rhinos comfortably and regularly.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So good.
Oh my man, this is one of the biggest reasons I think the Rubric detachment is good, because just having like a character and two characters 2x5 rubrics in a rhino, it's just world ending to people sometimes. Like the +1 to wound on the flamers. Oh my god, yeah. Ridiculous. The Vindy is the same Vindy everyone's got. Yes, correct. It is. The Land Raider is the same Land Raider that everyone's got. The Hellbrutes do anything spicy?
Nothing too crazy. They're going to be fairly standard. Again, that's really priced really cheap for you to consider it. There's just so many good options.
Yeah. The Forge Fiend gives out a -1 to hit for things that was hit by it but not deaded by it, which is actually a very useless data sheet ability, because if you're shooting your Forge Fiend at something it's not going to kill, that's going to survive into the next turn, you shot it at the wrong thing. So, Forge Fiend's still fine. It's not bonkers. It doesn't get the rapid fire either. But
the one thing which I think is important, and this could be a print error, but the Hades autocannon for the Forge Fiends in Thousand Suns have an extra AP. They're 822. And you combine that going with the extra AP going up to AP4, and you have 12 shots at 842 with the access to reroll hits, and that can get a little spicy.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
Maulers can get targeted with heroic intervention for 0 and can do so even if you've already heroicked. I still don't think you're taking them.
No, not really.
No, unfortunately. Defies, Defilers feel no pain 6+ in this book.
That's pretty cool.
It is. Anything else there interesting?
When you Overwatch, you get to Overwatch on 5s, and if you're nearby a wizard, you Overwatch on 4s. That's pretty sweet. They got a lot of guns. So yeah, I don't know. Defilers are kind of interesting here, but again, it's all about the points where they end up.
Yeah, agreed. Helldrake, we're not even going to talk about Helldrake. Spawn, movement 8, T5, 4 up, and with a 5 up invuln. With 4 wounds, they are feeling their pain 5+. The same D6 +2 attacks you'll come to know, and and then at the start of each player's command phase, one model in this unit regains 3 lost wounds. So you can go from 1 back to full if your opponent has stuffed up and allowed you to do so.
Yeah. So spawns are something I've always been a fan of. In Thousand Suns, and I think on paper these could be argued to be the worst spawns data sheet wise. But I actually think they serve a role in Thousand Suns that is more important than any other spawn besides possibly World Eaters, and they do it with their rules incredibly well. That 5-up invuln save coupled with the Feel No Pain is just so scammable, right? It requires your opponent to activate more than they want, and that means that they have to pull units into range of your units that kill everything, right? So that's really, really powerful.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Into the Zangor portion here. The Zangor Shaman is move 10, T4, 5 up, 5 up, 4 wounds. I'm not sure why they bother printing a 5 up armor save when it's got a 5 up. Anyway, they still have Baleful Devolution, which is your blast, devastating wounds, psychic, boom boom, 18 inches, D6 shots hitting on 3s at 901, and then the 4 stave is 3 attacks at 5-1 D3. You give +1 to hit to the unit that you join, and then while the model is leading a unit in your shooting phase and in the fight phase, each time this unit is selected to shoot or fight, you can shank one of your bodyguard models and then get D3 to the attacks and strength characteristic of psychic weapons. So you can go to 6 attacks at strength 8, AP1 D3 damage in combat, or you can go to D6 shots at strength 12. So D6 plus D3 attacks at strength 12 for its Baleful Devolution. Is this going to be good?
I think he's really useful. Again, he's infantry mounted, which is useful. He no longer has that awkward thing of going around walls. He's a wizard. That's also really huge with Cabal Sorcerers. I think his abilities are fine, but he's a character that holds enhancements. He's a character that casts spells. That's his biggest gain, I think, is going to be. The ability where he gets the extra strength and attacks or whatever is useful when you combo it with wanting to regen models into a space, because if you can get an angle into a chaff unit, stab your guy, kill somebody, kill that chaff unit or whatever, or at least hurt that chaff unit, then have the ability to regrow onto an objective on the other side of the wall without having to expose at all. That's quite useful.
Yep. All right. Zangor Enlightened, mate, tell us a story.
These guys have been separated into two separate data sheets now.
Good.
We have the ones with spears. The spears are both these guys are actually quite good. So they move 10. They're just going to be straight up mounted now. These ones, when they end a charge move, roll d6 for every model in the unit. On a 4 up, the enemy takes a mortal wound.
Yeah,
Useful
JPI.
ability. Yeah. Divining spear is their weapon for which gives them 3 attacks at 5-1-2, which is kind of okay. But then they also have lance and precision, which is pretty sweet. I mean, for a unit that is just zipping around doing goat stuff. And then their brothers are the Zangor Enlightened with Fatecaster Great Bows. They kept the data sheet rule they had before, where an enemy ends with a 9, they get that D6 reactive. And they have bows. Their bows are 30-inch range at 2 shots at 5-2-2. That's a glow up from before. In addition to that, they get ignore cover, lethal hits, and precision. These guys are awesome.
These guys are pushed, significantly pushed. You chuck a Zangor Shame with them to give them +1 to hit, so they're hitting on 3s, and you can have 12 shots from that profile. I actually think they're both quite good. Do you know, it's funny enough. So the Zangor Enlightened with the melee ones, I actually don't know if you take the Divining Spear, because if you take the Chainsword, which also has precision, they have 6 attacks each. You could have 36 attacks. You chuck the Zangor Shaman in there, that's going to be hitting on 3s, and you just go in and you have +1 to wound options as well, and you kind of just blitzkrieg through someone else's like unit of ACDC.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty legit.
I think these both these units are units which you're probably going to be taking to be chaff units, but then when your chaff units suddenly like kill a Space Marine squad, your opponents can be like, "What just happened?" So that's really cool.
I personally, I think the Great Bows are the way to go. If you had to pick out of the two, having the reactive move built in as well, it's just so potent, and they freaking push them so hard on the ranged profile. So
I don't understand how a bow can shoot further than a rifle, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, dude. Like, where's the bolt gun that's as good as this? It's a heavy bolter. It's a heavy bolter with ignores cover, lethal, and precision.
It's so good.
Hell? Like, better than a heavy bolter. It hasn't got the sus hits, but I'd much rather my heavy bolters have precision and lethal. Zangors, we've already pretty much told you about Zangors. Scout 6, uppy, downy, all that good stuff. Everything else is pretty much the same. And what else have we got here? The Mutalith Vortex Beast we do need to tell you about. Movement 10, toughness 10, 4 up, 5 up. 13 wounds, still OC4, which is above the going rate for most monsters in Gribbly. Still has its 3 different profiles, which are all still pretty freaking good. I think you can take 2 different melee weapons, or you get both.
No, they're not actually, I think you pick one. They're 2 different profiles. So you either get 2 profiles, the 50 attacks. But I think for the guns, one thing that's important to mention is all the guns before used to be 12 inches for the flamer and then 24 inches for other guns. The middle gun, the kind of medium profile, that's the blast gun at 922. That's still 24, but the laser beam went up to 36-inch range, which is crazy. And then the torrent weapon, the flamer, went up to 18-inch range. So you have a 2d6 611 Overwatch flamer. That gives you that's so powerful.
They still do the pulse mortals as they did. And cause battle shocks. But this is the why you're probably thinking that one of these guys should be in most of your lists. While the friendly Thousand Sun Psychic models in 6th model, you get +1 to your psychic tests. So Magnus is casting at a +3. And
so great.
Freaking nuts. So he just does everything. He gets two casts and they just kind of just go off. So you just have Oath of Moment and AP2 against this unit that must die on demand all the time. I think Mutalith Beasts are very pushed and very good.
Yeah, Vortex Beasts are still incredible. One thing that's worth mentioning, we talked about Zangors. One thing that is kind of not here anymore are cultists. Cultists have gone the way of the dodo.
Same as all the other guys. Everyone else pretty much lost their cultists. All right, into the Zinch demon portions. We don't need to tell you about the data sheets. You can go look these up wherever you like. But you get Kairos, you get Lord of Change, you get Flamers, you get Screamers, you get Pinks, and you get Blues. And so you get kind of everything except the Chariots, which I have to say is way better than the others. Way better than the other cults for what these guys bring.
Yeah, the one part that's I think a little sad is that like the units you wish were psyker units, like horrors and stuff like that, are not
I
psychers.
know. Yeah.
And that's kind of sad, but it's still very very good. Yeah, I think it's good. Like I said, the fact that you get access to all these data sheets is why you would consider that detachment.
100%. And that's going to bring us to the end of this shebang. We made it to the 90-minute mark, mostly because we went very in depth because there was a lot of data sheet changes. And considering there isn't a lot of data sheets, we were able to do it justice. But my man, time for us to rank and rate this a bad boy out of 10 as the Thousand Sons player on the show. And speaking on behalf of all Thousand Sons players, how happy are you with this book?
I'm incredibly happy. I mean, this to me is a 10. This is so good. I think it's incredibly powerful. I think there's multiple detachments that are viable. I think that your units are all really good. Units you had before are still good. The units that you maybe didn't have also got buffs and they're interesting to play. Multiple ways to play the army. I don't know what else you can ask for.
Yeah, I genuinely think this is like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. It holds on, retains a lot of flavor, and a lot of 5 rubrics plus a character can just go to the absolute moon. But the distribution of power, it's almost like the power level of the army hasn't gone down at all, but they've just evenly distributed it across the army in the data sheets. Like the freaking Rhino is so pushed. The Enlightened are so pushed. The Mutilith Beast is still like bordering auto take. You just have such an even spread of units to take now, rather than it's just 5 rubrics with flamers plus character, Control C, Control V plus Magnus. There is my army. That is my 2,000 points. You have an even distribution of power now, and you actually can write an interesting list. So I 100% agree.
And I think what's cool is what the army you just described is still fine, right? Which means that everyone who has a Thousand Sons army right now is going to pick up this codex and immediately start playing games, and not have to have a ton of hobby log in order to get there. But there are plenty of things to work on.
There are 2 detachments that just are like absolutely bangers for that build.
Yeah.
Like you can take the Index detachment or the Rubric Phalanx. Both those detachments are going to be crazy rewarding for just you picking up and playing the exact same list you've been playing already. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of this book. All right. Yeah. Speaking as a top player yourself, where do you think they rank in the competitive tier list from S tier all the way down to D tier?
I think they're S tier.
S tier, nice. I was going to put them. I was going to put them towards the top of A. Like probably maybe even the tippy top of A. I see them as having some bad matchups in the meta, which we'll go over and talk about in part 2, because I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. And yeah, I'm crazy excited about this book. I think this book is going to be really exciting to see on the table. But we are definitely entering the age of chaos, because I have like 3 of the 4 best armies in the game, all being like chaos builds at the moment. Yep. And I'm very interested to talk about how they all interact with each other. And my man, that is going to wrap us up. Is there any? Sorry, I didn't give you a chance to plug anything at the start, to my chagrin, mate. Is there anything you'd like to tell people about? Anything you're associated with? Any way people can get some more Brian goodness if they wish?
Yeah. Well, I mean, keep an eye on the socials for Team USA. We have Ben Jerk takes care of that for us, and he does an excellent job, always posting really interesting content. And then also check out my teammates over at the Fireside Podcast, Vic and Dave. They're doing some really great stuff. I think Dave just made a website he's super proud of that allows for a lot of content. So check out their stuff. It's always fantastic. And I'll pop on there every now and then.
Beautiful, dude. Love your work. Thank you so much again for coming on. You're an absolute champion. Can't wait to talk some more with you about Tsons on the other side, man. Take care and look after yourself.
Cheers.
The system doesn't work.
to break and fall.